Hi everyone. You probably already know this, but the Catholic Church has just elected a new pope. And I wanted to give an update on some of the things that I've found regarding the Catholic Church and Bible prophecy, current events, and see if there's any correlation between this new pope and what the Bible says is going to happen in the very near future. Take a listen.
Catholics across the U.S. are celebrating the election of Pope Leo XIV, the first ever American-born pope. The 69-year-old was born in Chicago and spent a large portion of his life in Peru. CBS News correspondent Bradley Blackburn has more on his historic election.
The joy here at the Vatican was universal as we watched a 69-year-old American become the leader of a church with 2,000 years of history. This conclave ended in just 2 days when the world got the news with that puff of white smoke. White smoke billowed from the Sistine Chapel, a signal the cardinals had elected a new pope. The crowd in St. Peter's Square erupted in cheers, then waited in suspense for the announcement. Emerging from St. Peter's Basilica, Robert Prevost becomes the first American pope in history, taking the name Leo XIV. His first words, "Peace be with you all."
La pace sia con tutti voi.
Prevost is seen as a progressive on many social issues. Overall, he's viewed as a centrist. Like Pope Francis, Prevost has spent time embracing marginalized groups like the poor. He has dual citizenship between the U.S. and Peru, where he served for years.
Now, what's interesting about all this is I think the idea of the first American pope is very, very interesting when you look at Bible prophecy. And it leads me to have the question, will this new pope want to implement Trump's agenda? In other words, will he want to make America great again just like Trump wants? Now, that may seem like sort of a silly question because some people might say, well, no, the Pope doesn't actually like Trump, or they may be in opposition. Well, what if the papacy's agenda and America's agenda are the exact same thing? What if they both are pushing for the same end result? Notice this article. Pope Leo XIV is the current head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City State. Elected during the papal conclave on May 8, 2025, following the death and funeral of Pope Francis, he chose the papal name Leo XIV. Now, I find this very interesting because the last pope that chose the name Leo has some very interesting characteristics. Pope Leo XIII was head of the Catholic Church from the 20th of February 1878 until his death in July 1903. He had the fourth longest reign of any pope. He is well known for his intellectualism and his attempts to define the position of the Catholic Church in regard to modern thinking. In his famous 1891 encyclical Rerum Novarum, Pope Leo outlined the rights of workers to a fair wage, safe working conditions, and the formation of trade unions. Now remember, when the Pope picks a name, he's not just picking it because he likes how it sounds. He's picking it because there's certain traits of that name brought out in previous popes that he wants to implement, that he wants to have in his administration. We're going to come back to Rerum Novarum here in a minute, but I want you to see what Donald Trump said on Truth Social. He said, "Congratulations to Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who was just named Pope. It is such an honor to realize that he is the first American Pope. What excitement, and what a great honor for our country. I look forward to meeting Pope Leo XIV. It will be a very meaningful moment." Now, time is going to tell whether this meeting and this relationship between Trump and the Pope will be a good one or it'll be a bad one. He didn't really like Pope Francis. They didn't really seem to get along. But I want to pose the thought that a pope and a president don't have to get along in order to push the same agenda. Notice this statement that Donald Trump made recently about the separation of church and state.
And, you know, they work right out of the White House. They've never done that. That's never been done before. No other president allowed that. I think, you know, they say separation. They say separation between church and state, they told me. I said, all right, let's forget about that for one time. We said, really, the separation? I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure. But whether there's separation or not, you guys are in the White House where you should be, and you're representing our country.
So there you have it. We should forget this time about the separation of church and state, and we can do whatever we want. Well, if we forget it the first time, why not a second time? Why not a third time? Why not just forget it completely? You see how these things, they're conditioning people's minds to accept this agenda. And this is a papal agenda. This isn't just something that Donald Trump thought up one day. He's implementing the principles of Roman Catholicism in America. Now, I came across this interesting statement from A.T. Jones. I want you to listen to this. A.T. Jones says, and he says this in 1889, Rome too would readily enough brand our present system of government as political atheism, if the national reformers had not already done it for her. And everybody may rest assured that the national reformers, and by the way, that was Christian nationalism of the 1800s, will have the pleasure of gladly joining hands with Rome just as soon as they shall have gained a position of sufficient importance to make it to the interest of Rome to join hands with them. In fact, this is exactly what Roman Catholics are commanded to do. In his encyclical letter published in 1885, Pope Leo XIII says, all Catholics should do all in their power to cause the constitutions of states and legislation to be modeled on the principles of the true church. Now, I find that very, very interesting because this is the Pope Leo just before the Pope Leo we have now. This was the last one. So, would Pope Leo like an agenda where the principles of the true church should be modeled in the state? That is church and state union. And keep in mind, this is what America is doing right now. This is where we're going. What's the end goal to this church and state union? The answer is found in Pope Leo XIII's encyclical, Rerum Novarum. Section 41. From this follows the obligation of the cessation of work and labor on Sundays and certain holy days. The rest from labor is not to be understood as mere giving way to idleness. Much less must it be an occasion for spending money and for vicious indulgence, as many would have it to be. But it should be a rest from labor, hallowed by religion, rest combined with religious observances. Disposes man to forget for a while the business of his everyday life and turns his thoughts to things heavenly and to the worship which he so strictly owes to the eternal Godhead. So you see his solution here, Sunday rest. And this is the same name that the current Pope just took. Will he further this agenda? I believe he will. And it's not only him now. Now we have a movement in America, just like it was in the 1800s, the National Reform Movement. Now we have Christian nationalism, church and state union, Sunday worship by law. It's not just like he says here, you go home and you sleep on the couch all day. It's religious observance, going to church. Now, just in case you're still doubting, notice what he says in section 57. Let the working man be urged and led to the worship of God, to the earnest practice of religion, and among other things, to the keeping holy of Sundays and holy days. Quick question. What does urged mean? Let's get a definition. Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Urge, to present, advocate, or demand earnesty. Another definition. Swiftness. Another one. Force or impel. The goal of Rerum Novarum is Sunday worship by law. It's forcing Sunday observance upon the people. Friends, we are here. We are on the borders of the eternal world. This is it. The players are here. The stage is set. And the question is, do you reflect the lovely image of Jesus as you should? Do you have his character? Heaven is about to become reality. Prophecy is about to become history. We don't have time left to play with sin. Revelation 13, 16, and 17. And he, this is speaking of Protestant America, causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. This is the mark of the Antichrist system, in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now we've gone over who the beasts in Revelation chapter 13 are. Both beasts. There's a beast out of the sea and a beast out of the earth. You want to go back and watch those videos if you want to go into those in depth. But coming up, we're going to look at Revelation chapter 17. Who is this harlot, this Antichrist system that is fornicating with the kings of the earth and forcing everyone to receive her wine? And I highly recommend that you find the book, The Great Controversy. And I would recommend that you read the last 7 chapters. That will explain what I'm saying right here, where this agenda is going, who the players are, what the mark of the beast is. It's all from the Bible, and I'll put a link in the description box below and in the comment section if you'd like to read this online. I thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.